Good morning, everybody. Happy June 21st. This is the second installment of the month, but it's actually the first. We were supposed to go live June 7th. I was under the weather and we did not have any other engineers available. I apologize. I'm feeling a lot better, not 100%, but a lot better. And here we are. And before I go into some house cleaning stuff, let me introduce my fellow panelists today. I'm joined by Orlando, a collector's dream. Good morning, sir.
Morning, John
Hope you're,
and Dr. Jim.
hope you're doing okay and do feeling well. And
Doing well.
below it's only on screen. I don't know how that happens, but as the man, I always say the man that needs no introduction, but I will give him one just the same. Dr. James Beckett. Good morning, Dr. Jim.
I just had an idea. Good morning. Um, if we're short engineers, I'm going to put out a bounty right now. If some hobbyists can come forward and want to be on Hobby Hotline and have the skills to do the engineering and pass muster, that pass the vetting, that they love the hobby and have some skill, I will give a bounty. I will give a reward at the national. If one or two people come forward to help share the load, because this is a great effort, but it's a big burden on you, John, and others who manage kind of the switchboard when you're looking at all these comments and trying to do that. It's Jeremy Lee does it all the time, but it's an absolute skill. If somebody else has that skill, see me at the national. I will give a bounty.
There you go. How about that? Well, how about for me? I've been doing it. Like, do I get back pay?
Okay, well, I actually will do that. I'll give the same.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You see me at the national, you know where to find me. In fact,
I turned my phone
nice.
off. There you go. There you go. I have a feeling we'll talk a little bit national. Let's get to some good mornings right off the bat here. Mad City Brew says, good morning, everybody. This show's 10 times better than Fanatics Fest. I will say this. It's at least 10 times cheaper to put on. I'll go that far to say. Frank Giastatella, good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Frank. Chris C., we have 3 goats. Awesome panel. Well, at least 2. I'm not counting myself, but thank you. I appreciate the sentiments. Good morning. Chris says, I'm on the way to a huge show in Fairfield, California. O'Reilly, sell anything, but today I'm trying to get some wax to grab a Grail card. So sell some wax to grab a Grail card. Collector, not hoarder, says, good morning, all. Abel in Vegas, good morning. Let's not break any hardware today. So I dropped a mouse a couple weeks. It didn't break, but I dropped it on the air. So yes, way better than Fanatics. All right, guys, let's start off with this. We're not gonna, there is some confusion. I kind of alluded it to in my intro here. Rather than every week, as I pointed out, engineering is a tough shoe to fill. Hence, Dr. Jim's bounty. We're the first and third Saturday, whatever those dates are, each month. And summer, we're ramping up to the Nationals. People's schedules get busier, mine included. Everyone on screen, right? It's kind of a busy. Hobby season is year round, but this time of year, as we get closer to the Super Bowl, the hobby schedules get a little tighter. So, again, this is not necessarily set in stone. It's set in stone for now, but we can veer off this and revert back to weekly or stay with it. But that's just something we decided to do during this time of year. So the show is still going on. The format hasn't changed. It's just the format hasn't changed as far as when we are live, but will be the first and third Saturday of each month. And we have a special event coming up in July. We'll talk about towards the back end of the show, everybody. So let's get into sort of our first topic here. This one directly affects me, guys, but it affects really the whole hobby in the grand scheme of things. So I still am an SGC bulk submitter, but on June 11th, they called all the bulk submitters and informed them that the bulk rate, the discount rate we get as bulk submitters, was going by the wayside. It was being done away with. It was coming from above SGC. That's how it was worded. This is not our call. This is from above us. You can figure out what that probably means without me saying as such. And basically, my rep, who felt terrible on the call, I could tell by his tone, basically said, John, you can do it still. Like, that's your prerogative. You just won't get those lower rates. Those are not going to be effect starting on June 20th. So starting yesterday. I'm still, some of the bulk subbers that I talk to are not going to do it anymore. A lot of my clientele reached out to me and say, listen, if you're, depending on your price, we'd still like to sub through you. So I'm still going to do it. I obviously have to adjust pricing. But this leads into sort of a, I'll start with you, Dr. Jim. During your Beckett days and obviously BGS, did you have bulk subbers that got a cheaper rate for being a bulk subber?
We basically had quantity pricing. So if people aggregated their own or others, they were going to get they could pass on the savings. So it's more that, when we first got in, I think we were thinking more about collectors rather than dealers and trying to make it, because PSA had some friction of, they didn't, I don't know that their collectors club was going as strong. And we just said, look, if you want to send in cards, send in cards. The more you send, the cheaper it'll be. And that went fine. That went fine because everybody knew there wasn't like a special deal. It was, you send in 1,000, you're going to pay less than if you send in 100, and you're going to pay more if you send in one card.
Yeah. When you heard this, Dr. Jim, what were your initial thoughts? Did you see anything like big picture? I mean, what do you think that this? Go ahead.
I have 2 points. One is it's a little bit of a kick in the teeth for your best customers. The people that are really going out there like you, being their ambassadors. What I would have done if I were them is I would have said bulk rates at the cheapest class of service is no more. But higher rates, the higher levels of service, yes, we'll do that. But they may have been getting overwhelmed with the cheaper submissions, which then they're further discounting, and then they're getting behind. But at BGS, or any of them, it's like, bring me all the high value cards you can bring me, and all the cards that you want in a faster turnaround that you're paying more for, bring them on. But the bulk rate things that are large quantities of not that great cards, to not give a further discount on that, I understand that. But like I said, if I were a bulk submitter like you, John, I'd be frustrated, but you'll find a way. I mean, it's their prerogative.
Yeah.
I'm struck by Chris Carlin, who I think that's Chris C. And he's works for collectors and is frustrated because he's a true hobbyist.
Yeah, I don't know if that's Chris Carlin. I mean,
okay, if it's not, there's.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think it's a gentleman named Chris C. He can correct us if I'm wrong.
Okay, but anyway, when he was at Upper Deck.
No, that's not. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Chris uses his full name, so just to be factually correct. So
fair enough. Well, I don't think collectors is necessarily trying to get rid of SGC. But if that would have been Chris Carlin, he would have had maybe inside information. But I think they just want to keep SGC in their lane.
Yeah.
And so some of the bulks stuff that they're getting, if it's brand new cards, I think PSA wants that. If it's T206s, then I don't know that. I mean, SGC does really well with the pre-war stuff.
Yeah.
But that's not a bulk submission kind of a thing as much as it's one here
Yeah.
and two there.
Orlando, we before I had, about a month ago, there were some content creators doing some videos, and again, to each their own, right? The end is near. SGC is going to be phased out. When I saw some of that content, knowing SGC the way I do, knowing some of the people there for 5-6 years and talking to them, I just didn't see that. And I thought some of that content creation was sort of clickbait to get views and that sort of thing. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. And then this shoe drops. And I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying that content was right again, but it does make me scratch my head and say, what's the long term here? And anyone from the corporate space knows 2 to 3 years into an acquisition or merger, that's when things start to really occur. And that's where we are with this acquisition. We're 2+ years in. I'll turn to you, Orlando. Do you think this is just a business decision and not a big picture thing, or you think this is like maybe the first shoe to drop and there's more to come?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'll say that I was very disappointed in that because I had a guy, Boca Card Subs, that I would sub all my stuff to for SGC. And as a vintage collector, I love SGC. That's really my favorite slab. And, for me, it was very convenient because he literally lived, 20, 30 minutes from my house. And I didn't have to mail the cards. I literally went and dropped them off at his place. And then he delivered them directly to SGC. And then he'd call me and I'd pick them up. So I really never had to go through the mail. And I'd save about $1 a card, which, it doesn't seem like much, but, you avoid the mailing and any risk involved in there. So I felt really safe doing that. And I got to know him personally, and he was really a super, super great guy. And I think he probably was the biggest, sub guy to SGC. And so that's a shame, and, I know now that he's going through doing different things like, he'll wipe down your cards and give you, your the soft sleeves back. And stuff like that, just trying to make up for it and continue to get some business. But that hurts people like that because that kind of was his main business. So it's a shame that it had to go through that. I think about SGC remaining in business, and I'll go back to what Dr. Jim says. PSA is keeping them in line. That's for sure. SGC would every once in a while, lower their prices, and that kind of made PSA not be able to raise their prices too much, especially
then we look at turnaround time,
turnaround time and all that. So I think this is a way for them to really control the entire grade, not the entire grading, but let's say 90% or more of the grading company out there, business. So that's a little bit more of a power play, I think, that they're doing, which I'm not happy with that. But it's business, and business is business. And now that they opened up a place right in the same building as SGC, even though that they do not accept, you can't, like, I can't go and submit to PSA directly there. I can still go to SGC and submit my cards directly to SGC. So that's one thing. But I think eventually they're going to go ahead and make it a submission center. It's very easy for them to do that. And they now they own the whole building, and it's a brand new building that SGC invested in there. So I think it's just like Dr. Jim said, it's a control issue there. As far as them remaining in business, I think they're gonna stay in business. They've been around, I think, 35 years or something like that now. So I don't think they're going away. I know a lot of the guys on YouTube were all saying, yeah, they're going to go away. I know, Mike Baseball Collectors predicted in less than 2 years they'd be gone. And a few guys just follow that lead. But I truly feel that they're going to be around. They have their fan base. They have a lot of vintage guys that really love the slabs. And, think about it. A lot of the big cards that have sold are in SGC slabs. Are those going to be transferred over? I don't believe so. So I'm going to continue with the SGC myself personally. I just like the slabs. I like the look of them. And, I just feel that they've been around a long time. I don't think PSA is going to let them, go out of business. They have, very, very good track record there. Their graders seem to be, in my opinion, more consistent than the PSA graders and seem to be more veterans than, as far as vintage cards than the PSA graders. So I just don't see them going away anytime soon.
Well, guys,
Well,
what if PSA offered to a free graded card crossover? Any SGC card worth more than $1,000, bring it to PSA, we'll convert it, no charge, put it in our PSA slab. We can't guarantee you get the same grade, but if you want to cross it over, we will do it for free. If they start doing stuff like that's further compromising what you said, Orlando, which made a lot of sense. There's a lot of really good cards in SGC holders.
Yeah, I think in that case,
a lot of them wouldn't cross it over.
Would they cross over with the same grade? We don't know. But yeah, I mean, in that case, if it's something free like that, yeah, I would probably submit some cards. Why not? It's worth a shot.
I was going to say, I think a lot of, I love SGC too, Orlando, like you said. I think a lot of people would take, especially on the free, when it's free. I think a lot of people would jump aboard that. And if Dr. Jim, if they did something like that, I think, I'm not predicting that, but if something like that was to happen, I think that would be an indication of what direction maybe they're even heading in, or what their future plans are for SGC. I think that would be a show of the hand a little bit. Why would you do that if you really, you're in a way, you're kind of cannibalizing yourself. I know it's Collectors owns both companies, but in a sense, that's sort of cannibalizing yourself. Here's a question from Abel. He says, does PSA offer bulk pricing discounts the way SGC did? If I submit myself, I can do $19, but if I submit bulk to ComC, for example, it's $23. I do believe that PSA offers their bulk subbers a discount. I don't know if it's in the same vein of the one I got as an SGC bulk subber. I can't speak to the percentages or that sort of thing, but I'm pretty sure they do and still do. So, you pointed out some great points, Orlando, right? Here's two companies owned by the same parent company. One is a cheaper rate and getting the turnaround times in a lot quicker fashion. And it probably was, PSA folks are probably like, we're sort of being upstaged by our little brother here. And like Dr. Jim said, maybe that's the reason for the bulk rates to be ended. I can tell you, and anyone that's subbed through SGC of recent can tell you the turnaround times went from 10 to 12 days to 30 days. I don't know if that was like mandated, like, hey, you're sort of making us look bad with these 2-week turnarounds when we're months and months, like knock it off, or, there's a rumor, and I'll just say,
slow down, quit doing such a good job.
Yeah. Well, there's a rumor, Dr. Jim, and again, I don't have this on any substantiated evidence, but there's a rumor that PSA plucked some of the more experienced veteran graders that worked for SGC and brought them over to PSA, which led to SGC having to move less experienced graders up into more premium positions and train and hire new graders. And so their grading floor had less manpower on it. I don't know if that's true or not true. I'm just saying that's been batted about as that's one reason.
Well, it would be a possibility and easy for them to do, especially if they're accepting, taking cards in that same building. They may just use some of SGC's graders to grade, some of those PSA cards. I don't know if they're doing that, but, you could always see them taking, let's take 5 graders and, see if we can speed up our delivery time there. But you know, we'll find out. I think it's going to take some time for us to find out exactly what their actual strategy is, you know,
Yeah.
and let's see what happens. But I just don't believe that they're going to go ahead and just totally eliminate SGC. I think there are many collectors that, you know, just you know, love SGC, just like many collectors love the Beckett slabs.
Guys, we're looking at it from PSA's perspective, and that's good. But the only bulk submitter I know that does all four of the major card grading companies is Joe Davis of Got Baseball Cards outside of Atlanta. He does all four. I'd love to know what his opinion on this. I bet he's thinking that PSA not affected very much. SGC may be affected and go down a little bit at the expense of BGS and CGC. You know, and so gem rate, you know, we wait another month and see, you know, it may be of a benefit to BGS and CGC that they're getting cards in the bulk submission that would have gone to SGC, maybe goes to them. I think PSA is already, they're so gigantic. But John and I talked about this in our episode. It hasn't come out yet. Is that I believe in the years to come, there will be additional grading companies of substance and that break into the top 3, 4, 5, whatever. We won't be just talking. You know, it's hard to see PSA not being number one, but we would have thought a year ago or before SGC was acquired that they had a very strong number 2 position in terms of their volume, but BGS was a very strong number 2, you know, if you go back a number of years. And so there'll be maybe a different number 2, there may be a number 5 that's big. So we're in the Wild West here. Things are happening and we're not controlling it. John, you get the ability to respond to it. But the sad part is you could talk all you want to SGC. I think it's out of their hands.
Yeah.
Even though they want your business, I'm sure.
The call, like I said, the call by my rep, I won't mention it by name, but very solemn. You know, you talk to people in your life enough, you know, when someone's sort of kind of faking sadness or really is sort of gut punched and really hates to make the call. And that was my impression with him. And he said as much. He made a point to let me know, like, this was not our decision. I am the messenger here. And it stinks. And I wish I was making a different type of a phone call. A couple comments here.
Whoa.
Yeah, go ahead.
Guy, how is his position not being eliminated? If he's your rep for bulk subs and there's no more bulk subs.
Well, I think he has. I think that's one of his titles. I think he does. He does.
There's a lot of implications here.
Well, maybe he's sad for himself too. Maybe maybe he sees some writing on the wall that I'm not even thinking about. Oh, Gordon makes a point, right? If PSA eliminates or collectors eliminates SGC, someone else is just going to fill their void. So that's something to consider. Thank you, Carl Taylor says, really interesting talk. It's 1:22 a.m. where he's at. So if we can be interesting at 1:22 in the morning, I'll take that. A feather in our cap. Go ahead.
Let me make a comment. Thank you, Carl. That's Carl from Australia. Great guy. Let me tell you that as an ex-marketing guy, I think one of the big advantages for them for SGC to do that is by now they're forcing the collector to sign on directly with SGC to, you know, send their cards directly to them. And what that does is that gives them so much information as direct access to these collectors that they may not have had. So literally they're taking and scooping up all of the different customers from these bulk submitters, putting them in their own database, which is actually PSA's database. So now they have a more direct access and more information and marketing information where they can market directly to the collectors versus just the sub, you know, the sub guys. So I think it's a great marketing strategy for them. That's something that maybe we didn't think about, but I think it's super important because a lot more people, I'd like to see how many more people are signing up to do direct submissions to SGC versus what they had in the past.
That's coming right out of the Fanatics playbook.
Yes.
They're doing the same thing. They want customer information so they can market to directly the customer. And again, that could be a problem for certain card shops or for certain distributors but that's the direct to consumer and the customer intimacy. That's a big deal now.
Yes,
yeah, a couple comments, guys, and we'll kind of go into our next topic, right? Abel says since the pandemic, he's been grading solely with PSA, but he's going to give CGC a try at the National. James Wen says he's been CGC all the way. And I think that was the first thing, and we'll kind of close with this, right? When I got the call, obviously it was not a call I wanted to let the ambulance pass by here. That was not a call I wanted to get. But I just thought, man, this is, you know, if you look at the gem rate reports that Dr. Jim alluded to, right? Overall, CGC is number 2, but that's heavy because of TCG in intake. If you're thinking, you know, I'm not a TCG guy, so I look at the sports side of things, and SGC's number 2 on that list. But I wonder if this bulk sub rate decision is going to really open that door for CGC to really move into that number 2 slot, even without TCG or with us, you know. And that's, I don't want to say my fear, but like, you know, I don't know really what, you know, I'm not in that room making that call. I just wonder if it was, you know, what's in play here and that sort of thing. And we may never officially really know. We can only speculate and that sort of thing. So one last comment from Mookie. The upshot is because collectors bought them, SGC no longer needs to aggressively compete with PSA to survive. And so they won't compete and maybe they won't survive. Well, their survival really depends on collectors' decision because they own them. They can eliminate them. That's part of that acquisition. When you're owned by somebody, you can be, you know, kaputted by somebody. When you're your individual entity and so, you know, owned by an owner, he or she decides. That's off the table now for SGC. You know, Dave Foreman is not the owner anymore. Collectors is. And so if they decide that it's in their best interest that the SGC doesn't exist, that will happen whether we like it or not. And I know Orlando won't like it, and I won't like it. You know, I want to speak for Dr. Jim. He probably doesn't like to hear that. You know, there's that human element too, right? Some people are going to be out of work. You know, I know Chris.
Nobody with skill is going to be out of work.
Yeah, true.
They're a really good grader. They'll have a place somewhere, either one of the existing ones or one. But this reminds me of load management and NBA tanking. The players don't tank, organizations tank. So if PSA was tanking SGC, it'd be because they were not putting the best players in the game. We're moving the best graders over to PSA, and so, you know, things like that. And then PSA, the SGC is doing the best they can, but maybe now they're shorthanded.
Yeah, I think I will say this as someone on the front lines of seeing those turnaround times drastically change, and something's going on, because if you look at the and I got an episode, shameless plug, Monday Hobby Quick Hits. It's going to be my thoughts on SGC and what's going on, and I'm going to allude to this. I think there's something going on there that's affecting the turn, because they're not getting more cards. It's either the same or even a little less, yet the turnaround times have tripled. So there's something at play. Again, speculating to what that is. I'll do a little bit of that on my Monday content. But all right, guys, you know, let's go into kind of segues right into, this one, PSA GameStop relationship. Like Dr. Jim said, we got on the 7th and 14th, Dr. Jim will be a guest on Sports Card Nation. So I've already kind of know Dr. Jim's take on this, and his take sort of enlightened me because I read a report like GameStop was going to buy PSA from collectors. And when I read that, it really struck me as funny because I'm like, GameStop was almost filed for bankruptcy like 3, 4, 5 years ago. And they're going to buy PSA, the number one grading card company in the hobby. Like, what am I missing here? And they already have a relationship, and I'll let Dr. Jim speak as well. I'm sure he's going to say the same thing he said to me when we were recording for Sports Card Nation. But they have a great relationship now. So there's probably not going to be a sale. It's just going to be more of a relationship. Maybe they'll get deeper in what they're doing. And I think that's exactly what. But I'm going to let Dr. Jim go first here, Orlando, because when I heard that PSA was going to be bought by GameStop in the article I read, I was a head scratcher. I said, this makes no sense to me. But go ahead, Dr. Jim. When I brought this up during that show, what you said, like the light bulb went on for me. So I'll let you go, acquiesce to you here.
Well, they already have a relationship. There's some similarities in what they want to do, but GameStop has two things that PSA wants. One is whatever it is, 3,600 stores, which then are submission centers and could be more, real estate, those relationships. But secondly, the other more important thing is GameStop is public. And so if they merged, if GameStop technically bought them, and if you dig deep, you see that GameStop has $5 billion in the bank. And that's unusual for a public company because you're supposed to put the money to work. And they've said that money is there for potential acquisitions. Newsflash, PSA Collectors is probably worth $5 billion. Their latest valuation was in the 4-something range. And so for them to get cash in stock out of GameStop, they become public and have a liquidity event for all their investors and owners that may want to get out. And then to me, Nat Turner's the new CEO of the combined entity.
Yep.
I could really see it happening. When people say no comment or we're not currently thinking about that, that's polite. And it's probably not a lie, but you can't, there's transparency. And then there's letting somebody, giving full information of something that might be on the horizon.
Yeah, those are the best points right there. I mean, they're public and they've got cash, and they could raise cash because they're public.
And they're raising more cash.
Exactly. You can imagine if they announced that they're going to go ahead. I mean, people would invest in GameStop even more. So I think that's the huge advantage that they have.
GameStop is a financial mess. If you look back over the last years of the wild ride that it's been on, what it has, another thing that PSA would really be interested in, they have a very strong emotional connection and following with many of the formerly youth of America, that this is part of their childhood and they're emotionally connected to go down there and trade video games or what they're going to do. So there already is a strong emotional connection, just like there is with PSA, just like there is with the hobby. And so it could happen.
Yeah, great points. Listen, talk about GameStop, man. Talk about Phoenix rising from the ashes. They were on against the ropes on life support, and here they are coming out smelling like roses. They are starting to add more wax and packs into their store inventory. That will increase. I'm hearing that will continue even on the sports side of thing, not just the TCG. When I first heard that GameStop was going to be taking cards for PSA, I thought that would be a nightmare. Now there has been some bad stories, but I will say this: it hasn't been as bad as I predicted. It hasn't been as big a nightmare as I thought it was going to be when I heard that announcement initially. So here we are, and that relationship I think is going to grow and get bigger. Whether that's like Dr. Jim says, it doesn't have to be an acquisition. They're already sort of aligned with each other. They already have a business relationship. It's like, I kind of, maybe it's a bad analogy. It's like when someone is going together with someone for 13 years and there's, let's get married. Like, we're kind of already married. Like, it's just semantics, or it's just formal, right? It's sort of that kind of thing. So
no, it's like that, but there are benefits to being legally married. That's why there's same-sex marriage in America now, because there are legal benefits, insurances in the way they're doing. And same thing with PSA. Marriage means PSA that they are inside that public company shell of GameStop. Then they get the benefits. They don't get the benefits if they just have a quote unquote relationship. They have to be part of the public entity, and then they get different kind of tax considerations. There's and liquidity. There's a possibility.
So you think? Yeah, go ahead, Orlando.
GameStop has customers who are into all that nostalgia, and those are people that could easily become card collectors. Imagine going in there, renting some games, buying some games, and then they see cards. And, I remember that, Griffey. I remember that. And these are guys that, like Dr. Jim said, are in that era that could easily be converted into card collectors plus, gamers. So I think that there's a really good mix there of people in GameStop that PSA would want to have.
Yeah. Do you think do we think it just continues business as usual, or they ramp up their relationship, or do you think we might see a news flash, PSA acquired by GameStop?
One of them's going to get pregnant, guys.
That's a line I never thought we'd hear on Hobby Hotline.
Somebody will spill the beans. I mean, if there's a rumor, next thing you know, there'll be different kinds of denials. But it might not happen. It's hard to put companies together. But I actually think it's a real possibility.
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, but a lot of things could happen. PSA could decide to go public themselves, or Fanatics may decide to go public.
Well, they've
too.
said.
I mean,
said. I think I've heard that, or I don't know. I might be getting Fanatics mixed up with PSA. I know one of them has publicly stated that's a long-term goal eventually for.
I think Fanatics has stated that. The group has said that.
Yeah. And maybe PSA says, "Hey, if they can do it, we can do it." You
never know.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts? I think we kind of covered the terrain here. Speaking of Fanatics, let's go into that as a topic. Right, we've got Fanatics Fest going on as we speak right now. Started yesterday, goes today. And as well as tomorrow. I've seen a lot of content. I don't want to say a lot. I've seen a decent amount of content come out there. It's star-studded. You've got athletes and celebrities just walking the floor amongst other collectors. They've changed the layout with this year's incarnation of the show compared to last Orlando and Dr. Jim. The dealers are more to kind of together and in the show instead of almost like in a separate room. So they're incorporating as to feel more part of the event. Last year, they felt sort of a separate entity. Now they're being made more part of the event itself. Fanatics has said all the right things, like, hey, we're not trying to be the National. This is not the National. The National is still the National. yet they sort of doing things that sort of say, we kind of want to be a little bit like the National. They have more signers this year than they did last year. They put them in a different spot so as not to disrupt the floor or the traffic on the floor. I'm going to take the graphic off here and make us big again. I've never been, and New York City is my hometown. I'm not saying I'll never go. I probably have a lot of fun. I just haven't made it there. Is this? I know for you, Orlando, they had one scheduled for Florida. It did get canceled. They've said that they want to get it right, so it may be rescheduled again in the future once they get all their demographics and all their ducks in a row. Is this for Dr. Jim, for you? We'll start with Orlando. Is this an event like if it works for you, you would attend, or does it move your meter?
Well, I mean, I would attend just to see what it's all about. And there's a lot of things that I would like to see there. You know, they have, for example, the Museum of Greatness, where they have a lot of memorabilia and cards, you know, from the history. I mean, I'd love to see the setup they have. They have literally boxes of every single Topps product, you know, complete boxes. They have a lot of, you know, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle memorabilia and stuff like that. I'd love to see that end of it because it's almost like a museum there. But you got to remember, it's not really the card part is not the biggest thing. I mean, it's only 250 tables as far as that's what I heard about the card area. So you know, it's not that big. You can go to a bigger card show if you want to, but it is what it is. It's a fan fest, Fanatics fest. It's all about Fanatics. It's all about their products. It's all about moving their stuff and advertising themselves. You know, they have a lot of, you know, talks and things like that. But it's great for a fan. I think it's great for kids to take kids there where they can see their, you know, their stars walking around. Tom Brady's walking around. All these guys are walking around. And I think for that, for a fan of the game, I think it's great. For somebody that's interested in buying cards, you know, there's better shows out there, but there's a lot of really cool events that they're doing there. When you participate with the athletes, you know, they have the shoot the puck, throw the basketball, or running and racing, and you know all the stuff that they have that I think kids like more than anything. But it is expensive. I mean, probably even more expensive than the National.
It is.
You know,
it's $69 get in for a day. So that's
I was looking at the list just to get a personalized autograph and picture of some of these stars, almost like $1,000. You know, of a Joe Montana or Dan Marino or stuff like that. But it's a good chance for them to go see, you know, some of these different. Like they have, you know, conversations where they'll have LeBron and Durant just talking about the game and just to sit there and watch them and listen to what their opinions are. So I think it's more of what it is, a fan fest. It's more for fans to go there, enjoy, you know, the athletes and just have maybe catch them there, take pictures with them, things like that. So I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah, Ruben says it reminds him of the old baseball all-star fan fest. I shouldn't say old. I believe they still do it today. Mad City, kind of a tongue-in-cheek comment, but I want to kind of play off this here, guys, from Mad City Brew. After 2026, will this turn into Fanatics National Fest? So here's my question to Dr. Jim. I don't know the answer to this question. Who owns the National? Is it owned by can the National be bought? Can Fanatics back up a Brinks truck and buy the National and make it their National? How does this work potentially?
First of all, can you put the graphic back up? The one about the Fanatics Fest that had the
actual graphic.
Oh, I just hang on. Let me get it back. I can get it back.
Yeah. Put us in the corner there.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just say a couple things here. First of all, the national, I think, it had some nonprofit management kind of attorneys develop the legal structure for it. So I think it's owned by technically the board, or the the board of trustees, the board that gets to decide some of these things. The show manager is an employed position that they do not own. Joe Drellick and his Three Musketeers, they don't own it. They're brought in as the outside managers, just like Brogy and Burkus and all those. So I think it's owned or controlled by that. The way it could be sold is it could be dismantled. If it can't be sold, it could at least be closed off, and that'd be an opening for somebody to do something like the National. They can maybe acquire the name National. Okay, so first I'm going to make an editorial statement. I don't want the Fanatics Fest to be more like the National. I don't want the National to be more like the Fanatics Fest. I want them to each keep their distinctive flavor, and I think that's what's best for the hobby. Having said that, look at this sign here, Fanatics Fest NYC. NYC is even bigger than Fanatics or Fest. I believe the future of the Fanatics Fest is mainly, if not exclusively, in NYC. Just like Comic-Con was exclusively in San Diego for many years. And then it got so gigantic that it went to some other cities. Okay, 3 points on the next line. The world's largest arena for sports and collectible. First, the world's. Okay, that's world is better than national, according to Fanatics Fest. So there, it's lofty. The next word in there is arena. Why are we talking about an arena? Well, that suggests a wrestling arena or a hockey arena. It suggests playing the game. And then lastly, there's no cards mentioned. They don't say
well,
sports,
it says collectibles. It says
no,
collect.
guys, come on. When you go to the National, it's a card convention. There are collectibles there. You go to Fanatics Fest, it's collectibles, it's sports. Cards are not a bit conspicuous by its absence is not cards. We are sports card collectors mainly. So I think this is very intentional. These guys are very smart. And I hope they will stay with that distinctive, that it would be the world's largest arena for sports and collectibles. And the National Sports Collectors Convention would be the premier show for card collectors, again, all over the world, but it's held in the United States. That's
so awesome. you don't see and I hope you don't, or I hope it doesn't happen, but you don't piggyback going back to Mad Cities, where you don't see a world where Fanatics acquires the National and then makes it theirs.
I hope not. I agree completely with Dr. Jim.
It's kind of not their lane. I mean, they've talked to a bunch of promoters. Can Fanatics run a medium-sized show for profit? I'm not sure, but they can sure run a fabulous, gigantic show in the heart of New York City at a big loss and get unprecedented publicity for our industry.
Do you think they're losing? I know they lost money on last year. Do you think that'll happen again? I mean, only they know.
I think they're hoping to lose more. Look at the publicity they've gotten. In fact, they're even talking about losing money in terms of brand building. Michael Rubin was quoted. He had a big article about how this is not about making money. This is about building something really important.
Yeah.
And
listen, a loss is a tax write-off. Anyone in business knows that. So
they're building their brand worldwide. That's exactly what Dr. Jim was talking about.
Yeah.
And
Here's
it's
a
not
question.
based on cardboard. It's not based on
No.
2.5 by 3.5 pieces of card. It's about the experiences. It's about the apparel. It's about gambling, and it's about buying stuff, which includes cards.
They came out. Yeah, they're selling some new merchandise there, which are NFL
Exclusive.
T-shirts based in soccer style,
Soccer
and
style.
they're selling it for like $100 a piece. I mean,
Well, even on the card end, Orlando, there are. I know there's F1. There's an F1 Fanatics Tops product that's exclusive to the show, and then there's a Baseball Series 2 Fanatics Fest edition that can only be bought at the show, and the inserts and parallels only come out of those boxes.
I think there's the Cactus Jack cards.
Yep. So there's that as well. A couple comments here. Fanatics has no clue about the hobby. They're just in it for the money. I think it's partially true. I mean, I think they want to be financially viable, obviously, and they want to make some money. I hope they care about the hobby.
Guys, no, it's not about caring. They have a clue, but they don't have all the clues. They haven't solved it because they're late to the party. They've got some really smart people, but I think they need more people that understand the industry, our hobby. In fact, it's more hobby than industry that they need to understand. And when they do, that's going to be great. So they have a clue, but some of the clues they have are incorrect because they're the clue based on other industries that this normally works. Well, things that normally work in other industries sometimes blow up or blow up badly in this one. So I'm hoping that Fanatics is on a learning experience. I think this Fanatics Fest is going to be better than the one before, the next one. But good luck, Orlando. I don't know that there's going to be a Fanatics Fest in Orlando for many years because I don't think that formula works, and it doesn't get them the publicity. You know, they figured out the time of the year where they can maximize their visibility and their athletes and all that stuff. They're really sharp, and they're going to get a 10x in New York. They can't get a 10x in Orlando.
Here's a question I'll ask you guys
or Pittsburgh, which is one of my favorite places.
From Vintage Card Collector. He says, no young kids are going to look at the national autograph lineup and get excited. Your thoughts on that? True? I mean, what's your take? Do you agree with that?
Fanatics Fest is a much better entry point for the hobby than the national. And it always will be. There's so many moving parts at the Fanatics Fest. Even at $69, it's getting up there to where it's like going to Disneyland or Disney World.
Yeah.
You know, there's all these experiences. There's any young person I think is going to prefer Fanatics Fest unless they're a hardcore card collector, which probably comes second. They say, gee, I love the cards, but well, if you really love cards, you're going to want to go to the National because that's the preeminent event for card collectors. If you love sports and you love all these activations and things like that, there's probably nothing better than the Fanatics Fest already in its second year. This is 300 athletes there. This is a coup. This is fabulous. And what 12-year-old kid doesn't want to go with their dad? If the 12-year-old kid goes with their dad to the National, what are they gonna visit? Are they gonna go look at vintage cards? I don't think so. They're gonna look at what the kid wants to look at. If you've ever taken your kid to Disneyland, you don't ride the adult rides. You ride the rides that they want to ride. Fanatics Fest, the dad and the kid want to do some of the same stuff. So it's brilliant. They're really doing a lot of things right. The WWE stuff, the 40-yard dash, the athletic competitions. They're, again, it's not a card show, but it's a sports, entertainment, collectibles show, and it'll be the world's largest, and it's in the concept of being in an arena where we're all participating. We're not going into a quiet museum, which the National's not quiet, but we're not just looking at stuff on the table. We're active.
So here, one last question. We'll go to our last couple topics, and we'll go through those kind of quick. Dr. Jim, why can't we have this Fanatics Fest in New York City for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and we can't get a national in New York?
Because the dealers who vote for it are never the expenses for getting your stuff in and out, for hotel, for all that kind of stuff. The dealers control the national. They won't vote for that, even if you told them, "Hey, your sales are going to be double." They say, "Yeah, but my expenses are going to be double." Now, again, if you do the math, you figure out, well, I should still do it, but they don't think that way. The hotel rooms would be twice as much. The loading and unloading would be at least twice as much. And so the numbers don't work there. They just don't work. They don't work because you can't have as many corporate sponsors. At the national, you can have corporate sponsors in Chicago. They can get in, get out. Then the hassle for corporate sponsors in New York City is huge. So that's a good thing, John. The fact that they're distinctives and that these guys do it this way and that's great, and these guys do it this other way and that's great, and that's the way we're going to 10x the hobby, not melding everything together so that it's one big experience. It's a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I get it.
It's not a little bit of this and a little bit of that. The only thing it's a little bit of comparatively is cards.
Right.
Comparatively, it's way bigger than an all-star fan fest, I think, in terms of the number of athletes, the multi-sport, the activations that are out there, and the collectibles and the museum and all that stuff. This is worthy of all the media attention that they're getting on Sports Center and all these other places. I mean, hats off to them. And they're going to lose millions of dollars, and we're all going to benefit from it. And we should say thank you to Michael Rubin.
I'm not going to, but you can do it. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Little tongue in cheek. All right, so let's talk about we're talking about a big show, a big event. Let's talk about a big card here. The Honus Wagner's got about 9 or 10 hours to go. The bid's up to, it's on Golden Auctions, 3.7 million. So this is over it might even be higher now. I haven't checked it since the show started. This is over 4 million with the buyer's premium added on to it. It's a PSA 1, an old label, PSA 1, just the same. You know, it's an iconic card. We don't have to necessarily. I show this card to my wife, and she's not a hobbyist, and it'll look familiar to her. I think it's obviously a huge Grail card, even though Dr. Jim has 2 behind him, and probably Orlando probably has 1 on his desk. But I mean, just kind of thoughts here. You don't see them all the time, obviously, for obvious reasons. I mean, I guess, what do we think this card finishes at? Orlando, I'll start with you this time.
I mean, with the buyer's premium, it's I checked it this morning, 4,150,000. You know, I think it's going to go over 5 million. You know, the highest priced one I think went 6.6, and that was a 3, and that was years ago. So I do think, and you had the authentic recolored one that went for about 2 million. So I do think that probably could surpass, with a couple more bids, it could go over 5 million with the buyer's premium. And so that's pretty much where I see it going. You know, these cars just don't come out too often, and you know, there's less than 60 out there that exist, and it is the #1 card in the entire hobby. So I think
this is the first
money out there.
Yeah, I'm surprised by this stat. This is the first numerical grade card to hit the auction block since 2022, which is obviously 3 years ago. I know, like you said, they're not prevalent. There's only so many in existence. I didn't realize it had been 3 years since a numbered grade 1 hit the auction block. So that stat caught me a little surprisingly. I've heard 7 million is what they're predicting. Dr. Jim, thoughts kind of on this card, where it might wind up at, and just general feelings.
My first thought is I told my wife we would be done at 11 o'clock. And it's
Okay.
11 o'clock. So
Yeah.
I really don't know, guys, other than the only sports card insight I can say is that there aren't enough to go around. It is the glamour card, always has been, of the hobby. The fact that it has an numerical grade as opposed to an A or something like that, it's all good. But what we're finding out when some things are going up and some things are going down, the things that don't appear very often or at all, like you said, this is the first numbered one and so there have been people waiting. Anytime you have people waiting, when things are coming out every 3 months, every 6 months, even these, whether it's new cards or old cards, when they're visible and available, that holds the price down. When they're not visible, they're visible but not available in this condition, you've got people, and they're not saving up. These are people that are wealthy enough, they're going to just stroke a check. So
I'm saving up, but the auction will be over by the time I'm ready.
I'm hoping it doesn't go for too much. If it goes for 7 million, to me, that would be bad because it would be so high up there. It raises the bar. We get some publicity, but there's a limit. There's a limit. So, at any rate, I got to go, guys. But it's always fun. Orlando, John, thanks for doing that. I just have to leave because
Yeah. We're about to wrap up. We're just going to talk about a live event. You know about it, Dr. Jim. So
I'm happy to be on and I enjoy it, but I got to go. So
thanks, everybody. All right. Thanks, Dr. Jim. All right, Orlando, me and you will work a little bit overtime. We won't spend the time. I won't make you late either, or myself late. I'm married too. So, but my wife, I think, glad, like she's like, do 3 hours. Get out of my sight.
I got the time. So,
so, we're part of an event. I think we've been part of this event now. I don't know, since its existence. Since it started on Bench Clear, which is what the show is. You're watching right now is on. We've been part of the inception of it. It's now on the For Collectors Network, and that's the Hobby Palooza. It's the third Saturday, so it would be what our normal third Saturday show, which is Saturday, July 19th, in our normal time slot, 11 a.m. Eastern. The only difference, it's part of Hobby Palooza, a great event, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The second biggest 3-day event after Fanatics Fest. We'll just say that. And so we'll be on Saturday, 11 a.m., our normal time slot. You just won't find us on Hobby Hotline YouTube or Bench Clear YouTube. We'll be on the For Collector Network. Three days of streaming content from numerous great content creators. You won't be on Hobby Palooza, or you won't be on Hobby Hotline that morning, only because of a rule that exists, and I get it, makes sense, because they don't want people on more than 2 different shows, which you'll be on 2 other shows. I'll let you, if you want to plug them, I'll give you that chance. But we'll have, also, just so everyone knows, the Hobby Hotline version on Hobby Palooza, like you used to see in 3 Ugly Mugs, we'll have more than 3 on that show, and it'll be engineered kind of off camera for us. So that'll be a nice little break for me or whoever else would be an engineer normally. So it's a great event. They raise money for charity, even better, right? It's a great event without that, and then you factor that in there. It's an even greater event. So, so happy to be part of it. We've been part of it since the first year. I believe the charity is one I love and help myself, which is Signatures for Soldiers, run by Tim Virgilio. If you don't know about, I know he was the national charity choice for 2 or 3 years. Do great work for injured and retired vets that need things, wheelchair ramps, different things, post military career. So it's a great, and Tim, when he started that organization, wanted to raise just $500. He's raised over $100,000 since his inception. He takes not a dime. It all anything raised goes completely to Signatures for Soldiers. Eric Norton, I think he's still involved from formerly of Beckett, and Panini is I think one of the chairmen. So it's a great charity, and this is a great content event from Friday to Sunday. Various shows and content, and artists will be doing stuff live. That's obviously all live. It's nothing's pre-recorded. But Orlando, I know you're on a couple shows. Go ahead and you know.
Yeah, I've been honored to be asked to be on a few shows, and yeah, I had to turn you down, John, for the Hobby Hotline, because I am going to be on Saturday and on Sunday, and I'll have an hour live on Saturday with Pepino Man, which should be a really fun episode. And you know, he's a riot.
Just thinking about that, I have to chuckle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that's going to be really my fun laughing.
Are you? Let me ask you, Orlando. Are you taking any clothes off?
Not me. You know, me and Caesar just barely. We talked a couple times about what we're gonna do, but he wants to kind of keep it a secret, and he really won't even tell me exactly, you know, what's gonna happen. But we are going to talk about set building and building sets, and we're going to talk about various sets, you know, for different years, and kind of do something about that. So that'll be fun because he's a big set builder and so am I. So we're going to spend an hour talking about that and mix in some fun stuff in between. So that'll be the fun session. This will be actually my third year in Hobby Palooza. So that's going to be very exciting. And then on Sunday, I'm going to have an hour session with my good buddy Ryan from Breakout Cards. And we're going to do a history lesson for many guys going all the way back to the 19th century. So we're going to do some 19th century cards. We're going to talk about multi-sports and non-sports. And we're going to share some of our collections from the earliest, you know, 19th century cards, and talk a little bit about some of the printing process and, you know, history of the oldest history of cards. And that should be pretty much fun. So we're going from a serious talk on Sunday to a fun, crazy time on Saturday. So I think I'm going to have a great time, and I'm really honored to be on Hobby Palooza again, you know, the third year, and with some great people. And, you know, so it's going to be a fun time. Can't wait.
Yeah, again, a great event. And I know you see on the screen, that's Hobby Hotline's slot, but this event runs from Friday all the way through Sunday. Numerous shows. I'm sure they haven't put a calendar of events up yet. It'll be posted soon on the For Collectors network and social media and that sort of thing. Money going to Signatures for Soldiers. You had me at hello with that organization, but you know, any time you can do something, the hobby can do something for charity. I'm going to be at the front of that line. I always have been. I always will be. That's just the way it should be, and that sort of thing. So I don't know if it's the 4th or 5th year, but I know they're, you know, it's always around this time of year, just ramping up for the national, get sort of the juice. Not that we need help getting excited for the national. It kind of happens naturally, but this event really kind of enhances that. And I know, I'm sure during Hobby Hotline we'll definitely be talking about the national, which will be at that point literally just a week and a half away. So actually a week. So a week and a half. So look forward to seeing you. Although not part of Hobby Hotline, just because of rules and makes sense. But we'll still have you there in spirit. Hopefully you're watching us and maybe laughing a few times. But
I'll be in the chat for sure.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. And again, you know, again, just to kind of close, that'll be our third Saturday show. We're not going to do another one in addition to that. And then we'll be on July 5th. So July 5th on Hobby Hotline, channel and Bench Clear Media, July 19th on for Collectors Network as part of Hobby Palooza. So Orlando, I got to pay you a little overtime. That's okay. You're worth it. I appreciate any big plans for the weekend.
No, not much.
Sometimes those are the best ones.
Yeah, well, I recorded a little video this morning, so I'm going to put that up, post that up as soon as we're done with this on my A Collector's Dream channel.
There you go. There you go. So Orlando's got content literally about to come out as soon as we end this live, and I have something on Monday, Hobby Quick Hits, which we missed. I missed a rare show miss. I missed the last slot for Hobby Quick Hits under the weather, but got this week's coming out. It will be about SGC. I know we talked a little bit about that today. I'm going to go more of a deep dive into it by myself because I don't argue with myself too much. I don't argue with a lot of people, really. So, have a great weekend as well. Commenting collector. Mookie says, Orlando, get that video published. I need you while I'm mowing the lawn. So there you go. An urgent call to action. So Hobby Quick Hits will be Deep Thoughts with John Newman about SGC. Orlando's about to hit you with something here in a few minutes. So Orlando, always a pleasure. I know he's not on screen. Thank you to Dr. Jim, as always, with his expertise and knowledge, which knows no bounds. So we'll see you again July 5th, the day after July 4th. In the meantime, hope everyone has safe travel, safe health, has a safe July 4th, and we'll see you on July 5th.